Ellak.
And Ellak is now 8, in case you missed that from the last Bible study. And this is Graham, who's 7 weeks old. And this is Bible study.
That doesn't suck.
That doesn't suck for kids. We're going to talk up a little louder so people can hear us, okay?
Okay, okay, okay.
Okie dokie.
Okay.
And even louder than that.
Okay.
Perfect. So, our story today is a very interesting one. Halloween is today, right? And so today's story, we don't know if it's true or not, but it's a good story. Ready? Okay. So, Jesus knew these 2 sisters and a brother. One was named Martha, and Martha really liked to clean the house. She liked to do what's right. She always let you know if you weren't doing what's right. Do you know anybody like Martha? Yeah. So, Martha had a sister named Mary. And Mary was not always necessarily doing what was right. Like, she wasn't always cleaning, but she was hanging out with Jesus, and she anointed his feet one time with about 200 days worth of wages. That's almost a whole year. So you could think that that was really wasteful, but she was kind of more spiritual, and so she liked to do rituals. Do you know anybody like that? Yeah?
You.
Oh, it's true. A pastor in the family is kind of like that. So then there was Lazarus. Lazarus was the brother, and he was very close to Jesus. And we don't know too much about him, except that one time he got really sick and he died. And at that time, people, when they died, they would anoint them with oil. Remember, like Mary had done to Jesus? They would anoint them with oil, and they would wrap them up in cloth. Can you think of anything that when it's dead, it's wrapped up in a bunch of cloth?
Mummy.
Mummy. Okay, so it wasn't exactly like a mummy, but imagine that there's this dead guy named Lazarus. He's in a cave, and he just dressed up like a mummy. Okay? This is where our story begins. Grandma's very fascinated by this story, I think. So, Jesus comes, and he sees Mary weeping. And the Jews, because they were Jewish people, like their whole congregation was weeping. They were mourning that Lazarus was dead. And Martha, she had just said, if Jesus had come here sooner, my brother wouldn't have died. Right? So she was a little crabby. She was right. So she's saying something that's true, but she was a little crabby, right? Other people, so imagine all these people are crying, and Lazarus is dressed up like a mummy in a cave. And so Jesus comes and he says, where'd you put him? Where'd you put his mummy body? And they say, come and see. And he began crying. Jesus began crying. And so the Jews thought that because he was crying that he loved him a lot, right? Because when you mourn when someone passes away, they figure you love them a lot. But some people said to them, could this guy, remember remember he healed that guy who was blind last week? They said, if he could have healed that guy who was blind and couldn't see, why couldn't he cure Lazarus before he died? Why wouldn't he just make him not sick? That'd have been smart, right? Yeah. And so Jesus goes there, and he's really disturbed. Now that could mean he's pissed off. It could mean that he's just annoyed by them and what they're saying. It could be like the
way they organized his body and stuff. That could be.
He could have been disturbed by being in a graveyard, or he could be disturbed because people were saying mean stuff about him and saying that he could have made sure his friend didn't die. Right? So maybe he was feeling guilty. We don't know. So he goes to where he's buried and wrapped up like a mummy in this cave. And he told them to move the stone because they put him in a cave and they just put a stone in front. And so he says, move the stone. And you know what Martha says, because Martha's the crabby one, who's very practical all the time. She says, Jesus, he's been dead so long he smells bad. Right? don't move the stone because he smells bad, right? The other thing that you should know is that if people who were in the Jewish faith at this time, they believed that if you went near a dead body or you touched a dead body, it meant that you, it was called being unclean. And it's not like when you're dirty and full of pumpkin and you have to take a bath. It's more like when something happens, it's kind of like a spiritual timeout, right? So you can't go to the center of the worship space. You kind of ponder because something sacred has happened, something involving life usually or death, or you follow a ritual so that you can be clean again. So you wouldn't normally go and be around a dead body. Wait, do you hang out around dead bodies normally?
No, including dead squirrels, dead birds, and a few other dead things. But anyways.
Yeah, so we don't normally hang around dead bodies. But Jesus wanted to go see the dead body. Martha, the smarty pants, said, he's smelly, you might want to not do that.
He's smelly.
He's smelly. He's been dead for 4 days already. And Jesus said to her, I told you, but you didn't believe that you were going to see all the cool things that God could do. And so they moved away the stone, and Jesus looked up, and then Jesus does a funny thing. He says, I'm not saying this so that because I need to say this out loud. I'm saying this so that you'll believe. So he kind of play acts, you know, like if...
So you do believe it? He's saying, Allah, so you do believe it. Ha!
Sort of. Well, he looks up to the sky and he's like, Father, thank you for what you've done already. But he does it in a really big showy way. Like, not because he had to say these hocus-pocus magic words, right? But because he wanted other people to know what he was doing.
Hocus-pocus magic words.
Sometimes if you pray on the inside, people don't know you're praying, right? So he does it in a really big, obvious way. Like, hey, God up there, Father, help me out. And he does it really loud so people can hear him. And... So
Look
then,
down here. I have a dead body over here. Can you do it alive again?
Guess what happened?
What?
He started screaming, and he said, Lazarus, come out! What do you think would happen if you opened up someone's grave and they were wrapped up like a mummy? Have you ever seen mummies in a museum? What would happen if you just said, hey mummy, get up! Get up and play!
Depending if there was a hurricane or not, he would fly.
If there was a hurricane, that might move them. But they probably wouldn't get up and come play with you, right? Right. But he says, Lazarus, come out! And the dead man came out. His hands and feet were bound with strips of cloth. And he comes out. We don't know if he looked like a zombie, but it's fun to pretend he looked like a zombie, right? And he came out, and his face was wrapped with cloth. And Jesus said, unwrap him and let him go. And lots of people saw this happen. At least that's what they say in the story. So that's the story for today, right? And one thing that's cool about this story is that Jesus believed that when you got in trouble or when you did something you weren't supposed to do, that it was kind of like getting a piece of cloth tied on your arm that said, I forgot to clean up my Legos, right? And for everything that you did that you got in trouble for, you got a whole bunch of things tied on your body. And so there's kind of a double meaning where he's raising Lazarus from the dead and telling him to take death off of him and embrace life. Like, if you're hanging out with God, you get to be alive. Woohoo! So he's saying that, but he's also saying that he's going to come and take all those things that you got in trouble for that are like tied on your body and untie them for you. So that you don't have to walk around with people thinking like, oh, that's the kid who didn't put his Legos away. What do you think of the story?
Good, but Graham is a little tired, and he thinks it's boring because he can't understand what we're saying yet.
Yeah, because he doesn't know what words are.
A little tricky thingy, but
Did you understand the story?
Much feature.
What was your favorite part?
The guy walked up and hit. I got a question.
Yeah.
If he's all wrapped up, how can he see? Sure, he would probably go, bang, bang.
He might. He might have come out with a big clunk on his noggin from running into the side of the cave. But remember when you had your Halloween costume on? And we didn't have any poked out holes for the eyes? How did you see?
By looking like the little crack.
Yeah, peeking through the cracks. And it's possible that he just walked towards the light. Because if you're in a dark cave, even if you can't see, you can walk towards what's light because caves are dark on the inside. Right? So that might be how he did it. Do you have a favorite part now?
When I hug you.
Yeah, hugging is definitely a favorite part of the story. All right.
When Lammy was like, Tiny was like,
Yeah.
That's
That's why I thought he'd be really good for this Bible study because babies, when they get scared, be afraid. They stick their arms up a little bit like what we imagine zombies look like. And so Graham is he's a very good visual aid. So he's like, I am waking up. So it'd be like like this. And it's cute. See, there he goes. So here's my question for you. Ready? Do you think that you can tell the story in your own words to the people who are watching so that they know what happened?
So, Jesus had 2 sisters, 1 brother. One got sick, died. God turned him alive again. Done.
Poof!
Poof.
Short and sweet. That's the 7-year-old version. That's all you gotta know.
8-year-old.
8-year-old, yes, that's right. 2 days ago. Alright. Bye, everybody. We'll talk to you next week. Say bye.
Bye.